Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we have a different kind of book, A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Now, before we even talk about the context of this book, you need to know there is major trigger warning when it comes to this book. There is casual suicide, casual death, casual drug overdoses, casual sex. Things in this book are meant to be disgusting and disturbing because this book is written as a warning. Even though it's written in the 1930s, it reflects our society in a way that's uncomfortable, and it really makes you question where our world is going and what our generation has for this world that we live in. It's not a comfortable read, I'm telling you. Even though it's a utopian society, things are wrong in this world. So, now that we got that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about this book. Now, this is the kind of book that you have to annotate. Like, I know it kind of goes against the whole booktubers save the books theory, but if you wanted a fresh copy, go out in a bookstore and buy one. This is the kind of book you need to annotate. Like, there is not a page in this I didn't write something down, because it makes you think and it makes you question things, and plus there's a bunch of Shakespeare references, so like naturally whenever I saw that popped up, I was like, oh, I know that play. The title itself is a Shakespeare reference, guys, like, oh, A Brave New World, that's The Tempest. Now, we don't actually meet our main character until about halfway through the story. Until then, we follow the character Bernard. In this world, there are class systems designated when a child is born. And Bernard is one of the upper class systems. There's alpha, betas, gammas, deltas, and epsilons. Epsilons are the very bottom, alpha, alpha pluses, and controllers are the very top. These classes are decided and acted upon by the people who control how the kids are born. Kids aren't birthed in this society. There are no parents, there are no family. Kids are born out of bottles. And so when they decide a class for a child, they take the egg or the embryo or the child at that point and essentially destroy it. Like, they soak the eggs in alcohol if they're an epsilon, or they have them hang upside down if that's their job they're required to do, is hanging upside down. They teach the workers to fear nature, that they put the toddlers on an electric strip and shock them if they ever reach for a plant or a book, and teach them factories are where they belong. Bernard is one of the upper class systems, so he's allowed to have freedom in this world. He's a psychiatrist, yes, but he's also kind of different. There's rumors going around that his egg was accidentally doused with alcohol because he doesn't quite fit in with this society. At the time this story takes place, he's hanging out with this girl named Lenina. Now, again, casual sex in this world, so people aren't dating, they're just hitting it off at night. And, well, these two kind of go against the norm. They've been together for quite a while now, and they've kind of only been seeing each other. There have been other men in Lenina's life, but at the moment she's just focusing on Bernard. And that kind of causes some conflicts when they go to the orgies, which are, there are many in this book, I can tell you that. Now, Bernard, as a psychiatrist, is allowed to travel. He's allowed to go places other people aren't necessarily allowed to go. And he wants to take Lenina on a trip with him. And he goes over his options, and he realizes a place that neither of them have been before, and probably no one can ever take her there again, is a savage reservation in America. Now, this utopian society is allowed to thrive because they have controllers. So in order to travel to America to go to this savage reservation, as it's called, he has to go talk to the controller and get him to allow him and Lenina to go there, and he's only allowed to do that because he's a psychiatrist. And while he's there, the controller lets slip that he himself has been to the savage reservation. And that kind of sets off warning bells in your head as the reader, because people don't talk about the past in this book. The past is something, it happened, it's behind us, we can't look back now. But the controller brings up he's been there, and he went there with a lady, and the lady never returned. He assumes that she's dead, but you don't exactly know how. So with that in mind, we see these two characters leave their little home in England, fly across the pond, and end up in America to go visit the Savage Reservation. And that's where we run into our real main character. John, the character who takes over the role as the MC for the rest of this book, is a white kid born in the Savage Reservation. It's very clear from the moment you are introduced to this kid, he's not a normal person by any means. He's not normal in this society, he's not normal in the utopian society, he's not normal in our society. He's kind of an outcast. That's meant to be his role. He is the son of the controller and the lady who the controller brought to the Savage Reservation. The lady's name is Linda, and while Linda was on a walk one day, she fell and hit her head, and the controller, assuming that she died, just kind of left her there. Linda lost all her birth control in the fall, and so she ends up getting pregnant from the controller, and thus John was born. But the rule is, if someone's born in the Savage Reservation, they can't leave. So Linda and John are stuck in this place that they have no right being. Linda was raised being told that spending is better than mending. If something's wrong, go buy something to replace it. Don't fix it yourself. She was a caretaker in the bottling center, so all she knew was the basic methods to create and preserve a child. She didn't know how to raise one. Linda doesn't know how to take care of John. She was never shown any way to raise a child before, because all she knew was the controller, the place where she grew up, and the world that she was surrounded by. She knew her job, she knew her motives, she knew what she had to do as a beta, but nothing else. So that kind of puts her in a disadvantage in this world. And she doesn't realize that people get married in this society. You're only supposed to have one man or one woman. She doesn't realize that that's normal for these people, that she is weird because she believes that everyone belongs to everyone. And so she's an outcast by the other women because they hate her for stealing their men because she's so fluent with whoever she sleeps with. John has an interesting relationship with Linda. He respects her as his mother, but at the same time, she refuses to accept the fact that she is a mother. And so he just kind of has to take care of her because half the time she's drunk, and it's depressing, but it makes you think, and that's kind of the whole point of this book. Once Bernard hears John's story, he realizes that he needs to get John and Linda out of the Savage Reservation and get them back to the UK. So he uses an excuse to say that he wants to study them, study how they react in this new society, in this new world that they view as a utopian society. And so somehow, some way, he convinces people to let them leave, even though, because John was born there, he's not allowed to leave. So when he enters the UK, people call him Mr. Savage, because that's all they see him as, just another savage, not a person, just something to gawk at. This kind of makes John a celebrity. He doesn't realize the world he's getting into until it's too late, and he's fascinated, but at the same time incredibly disturbed by this. He sees the drugs, and he sees the willingness people are to give up their free will, and is horrified at it. Linda was away from the society so long, she missed the modern conveniences. In this world, there's a drug called Soma, and Soma is seen as the perfect drug because there's no after effects to it. You take it, you go on a little vacation, and then the next day you're completely fine. Linda has been away from this drug for almost 20 years, and so the minute she gets back, she takes so many, she essentially puts herself in a permanent vacation. Not a coma because she's still awake, but not alive either because she isn't there. She's allowed to remain that way for a couple days, but eventually she is moved to a death hospital, a place where they don't treat someone, they just let them die. During this time, John and Bernard are being shown around the world. They're being viewed as idols, invited to everything. John shares his experience with art and people. People find it fascinating, but at the same time, they're disturbed by it. They don't realize that families were a normal thing at one point. These people don't have religion anymore, but John still idolized not only the Christian God, but also a couple pagan gods as well. The people in this utopian society, though, they worship Ford, as in the guy who created the Ford cars, the guy who created the assembly line. They worship the assembly line. They see it as the ultimate lead into this new society, away from inconveniences into something that's consistent and precise and simple. They're willing to give everything up for an assembly line. And looking at how they create children, they have done that. During this time, though, John realizes he has a thing for Lenina. He tries to get with her, but at the same time, he wants her to only want him. He doesn't realize that she can't understand why she can't have multiple men. All he sees is a future relationship, and all she sees is another bang off quick. This kind of drives John to isolate himself again. He doesn't want to be by these people anymore. And so he moves to a lighthouse and punishes himself for whenever he gets disturbing thoughts or whenever he starts thinking about things he believes he shouldn't think about. Eventually, when his mother dies, John himself kind of loses his attention to the world, and well, this book doesn't exactly have a happy ending. Overall, I give this book 9 out of 13. This is the kind of book that's really hard to give a score for. It's disgusting and makes you uncomfortable, but at the same time you can't really put it down. Even though it's a school assignment, I actually enjoyed reading this. And I'm not sure I would pick it up again, but it's not something I would give away. Again, this book is meant to be a warning for us, so it's meant to be something to reflect on, not exactly something to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching my review. If you have any suggestions on what you want me to read next, leave them down in the comment section below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.